What's up, everybody? For today's video, I wanted to show you how to wrap your hands. So today with me, I have a 180-inch Century cloth hand wrap. So we want to start with the loop. We're going to put it around our thumb, and then we want to take the wrap around the back of our hand. Now, as far as hand wrapping, guys, it's not an exact science. What you want to kind of do is you want to have certain goals when you're hand wrapping, and you want to wrap your hands with those goals. So personally for me, I have a couple of issues with my wrists, and I really want to reinforce having a straight wrist when I punch. So I'm going to put extra cloth and extra support around my wrist to make sure it really stays a straight block. If you have problems with your knuckles, maybe you would want more protection, more cloth by where the knuckles are. So I'm going to go a couple times around the wrist area here. And also, you want to make sure that the wraps don't twist so that you get a nice even wrap all the way through. Another thing, guys, is you want to have your hand open the whole time. When you're using cloth wraps, you want an open hand. If you close your hand, a lot of times it will loosen the wrap. So keep an open hand when you're using cloth wraps. If you are maybe like you're going into a UFC fight, then they will use tape. And with tape, since there's so many individual pieces of tape, you can close and open your hand and it won't affect the entirety of the wrap in the same way the cloth would. Another tip here, guys, is you want to have minimal amount of cloth in the center of your hand here. A common mistake I see is people wrap it over and over and over again. There's this huge bundle of cloth right in the center of your hand. And this way, when you make a fist, there's this whole thing of cloth there. And it's really kind of tricky to get that perfect fist shape that you want. So try not to go too many times through this part of your hand. I want to put this through around the knuckles right here, and I'm going to go back through and start going through each individual finger. Okay, I want to go in between the spaces of each one of my fingers here. Okay. Just adjusting this hand wrap a bit. Another crazy detail, I just learned this recently, is when you're going from side to side, back and forth, you have two bones in your forearm here, and your radius and your ulna are those two bones, and they actually cross while you move your hand back and forth, which is kind of crazy. So another tip here is I want to make sure that I don't twist that cloth. I want to make sure it's straight the whole time. Okay. Now, as I've gone through the fingers, guys, I elected to do something where I just go straight through and then I go to the next finger. Sometimes what people will do, especially if they want more support around the knuckles, is they'll go through this way, wrap it around the knuckles, and then under and through the next space in the fingers. So kind of a personal preference thing there. As I said, I want more support personally for me by the wrist, and I don't want too much material here. So now that we've gone through the fingers, I'm going to wrap it a couple times, not too many, around the knuckles here, so that we have good support by the knuckles. Making sure it doesn't bunch up, and kind of pulling it a little bit, making sure it's nice and tight. So once you feel you have sufficient support, you're going to go around and you're going to wrap your thumb. Okay, so a lot of people make the mistake, they wrap the thumb around this way, and that's not right. So what you want to do is you want to wrap around the thumb and go back through this way. I'm just getting a little bit tangled up here, and I want to make sure my cloth stays in a nice straight line. All right. So this is looking pretty good. And as I said, I want more support in that wrist area. So I'm going to go through the wrist a couple more times here. And then bring it back through this way. And as you see, it's a nice perfect wrap where you wrap it straight around the wrist here. And then now from this point, you can make a fist. It won't bother the wrap at all. And I have that wrist supported. Okay, so I hope you guys learned something here. Another great point is we actually wear these hand wraps and these gloves because the human hand is weaker than the skull. Most people think the use of the boxing gloves or whatever type of gloves that you're using or your hand wraps are actually to protect your opponent, but that's not the case. It's actually to protect ourselves. So that's why we wear our hand wraps, because it's very common to break your hands when you're hitting someone. And self-defense experts, everyone from Rickson Gracie to Bas Rutten, recommend if you were to throw strikes in a street fight, you do with open hand and you hit with your palm instead of your knuckles, where you could hurt yourself if you don't have the proper protection. Anyway, guys, if you learned something, please throw a like, subscribe, and share with your friends, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much.